So I will continue to present these solutions, but with a little bit of caveat here and there. I want this to be more optimistic about the future and think about the great solutions that are possible despite the caveats that are associated with each of them. So don't take the caveats as a negative. So keep that in mind. And so here I already showed this last time. Where is my cursor? There it is, and there's the pointer. So I already said the global passenger car sales, new car sales in millions, going from 2018 projecting to 2030. In terms of electric vehicles, other cars, often referred to as ICEs, internal combustion engines, and this is the percentage of EV of the total sales on this axis here. So 3.1 million EVs were sold in 2020, 4.7% of the new passenger cars. This is the caveat in the sense that even though the number of cars, EVs, is growing, it is still a small fraction of the total vehicles being sold. So just like it's always good to reduce meat consumption to help the environment, it's always good to reduce driving one's own car for helping the environment. In that sense, driving electric vehicles will be better, but still not driving is always better. But we will see that, or have recorded elsewhere, that even when you do trains instead of cars, or if you do buses instead of cars, you have to still worry about how many people they are carrying. So there's life cycle analysis kind of things one can worry about. But again, to be optimistic, imagine that in 2030 the percentage of EVs will grow above 20, and the number of millions of cars would be close to 35 or so millions, which is very healthy. So they will continue to rise to 48% of the passenger car sales by 2030. Again, how to charge these EVs is going to matter, because you need to charge them with renewable energy. If you use fossil fuel to charge EVs, then you're not accomplishing much. So we will look at good news on renewables as well. There are also fancy innovations like this. This is a car from Japan. It's called Duo, I think, dual mode, DMO, dual mode transportation, or DMV, dual mode vehicle. So it's going on tracks here, and you can see the picture here a little bit how the wheels and the body are aligned, and you can see the tires here. So within 15 seconds it can get off the railroad and get on the normal road, and you don't have to change from bus to train and so on. This one can take you end to end, hopefully all the way to your doorstep, because right now if you look in the US or even in Europe, a lot of times huge parking lots are built around metro stations so that people can drive in and then take the metro, which is good, but still that can be not as much of a saver. Okay, electric cars are already cheaper to own and run. So this is comparing pure electric, diesel, petrol, plug-in hybrids. So you can look at the cost here. This should be in euros. So 4-year costs for Volkswagen Golf, including purchase, fuel, and all taxes, in euros. So in the UK, difference between electrical and diesel is minus 5%, and petrol is almost maybe a little bit higher than diesel here. Plug-in hybrid is a little bit higher than pure electric. Hybrid is something that switches between fossil fuel and batteries or electrical. right? In Germany, the difference is minus 11%, France minus 12%, Netherlands minus 15%, Norway minus 27%. The differences often depend on the kind of incentives that are provided for switching from diesel or petrol to electrical. And good news is that Norway and Germany have lots of renewables already, but as I mentioned as a caveat before, coal is still part of the game over there. The other good news, lithium-ion battery pack prices have plunged in the last decade. So real 2020 dollar per kilowatt hour. In 2010 it was around $1,200 per kilowatt hour for lithium ion battery pack. Now it is down at $200 per kilowatt hour. So that's a massive six-fold drop. Caveat here, mining for these materials, lithium, cobalt, and other that are required for renewables, is creating other unintended consequences, and will do so unless we are careful about how to manage land use, transportation, emissions from mining, livelihoods, degradation, etc., etc. So there's the good news. This is again Charging Ahead Worldwide Lithium-Ion Batteries, what we talked about from 1990 to 2018. The drop is even higher. Number of cells in production in billions, cylindrical cells and other cells. So you can see that from 1990 to 2016 or so, the numbers have increased pretty impressively in terms of number of cells in production per billion. Okay, so overall, good news. Cement in the course on geoengineering, carbon cycle, how bad are bananas, so on. I've recorded the podcast on problems with cement production as of now in terms of emissions and other land use impacts which are additional. But now, good news is cement makers across the world pledge large cut in emissions by 2030. So industry responsible for about 8% of CO2 emissions commits to reaching net zero by 2050 without offsetting. Offsetting is where you emit carbon but then you plant a tree somewhere. So overall emissions may go down, but not if you just go net zero instead of trying to offset the emissions with some other activity. Okay, so that adds a little bit more complication. So direct reductions and net zero are the best. Green Steel, Swedish company, ships first batch made without using coal. Steel, aluminum are all very emission heavy industries as well. Hybrid sends steel made with hydrogen production process to Volvo, which plans to use it in prototype vehicles and components. Volvo has also put out a report saying producing EVs is, I don't know, some 70% more emission intensive than ICE or internal combustion engine. So there is still some caveat there that one has to be careful about. Okay, so let me stop this podcast here and then continue with others in the next podcast in terms of what are the various good news solutions we can expect in the future. You can always find more on the caveats, but let's take the good news as it comes here while we keep an eye on the total emissions and trajectories we are on. Okay.